there, glad you could make it. I'm just sitting here with my stock looking Rapidstrike, what you could call a sleeper. Hold on. There we go. Like I said, stock looking Rapidstrike. So this is the Invert Rapidstrike, so named because if you take a picture or video of it and then use an invert filter on it, it will look like a stock painted Rapidstrike. And the idea for this was suggested to me by a fan who goes by Leg, and I thought it was a really fun sounding idea, so I took him up on it, and this is the result. So now it's time to go over everything about this build, and we're going to start with the outside. You should know the drill by now. So for the paints, I used 5 different paints for all the colors that you see on here, one for each of the different colors that the Rapidstrike is made up of. But first, I started with a Duplicolor Vinyl and Fabric Light Gray as a base coat to get everything nice and evenly toned. And then I used a Duplicolor Vinyl and Fabric Dark Gray for this piece of the stock right here. I used a Montana Gold Marble for the pieces that turn dark when they're inverted. For the Rapidstrike Blue, I used a Montana Gold Buta. For the main orange, the orange that you see on the battery tray, for the trigger, for little slings, the little piece right here on the stock, for that I used a Montana Gold, and I have to look so I don't get the blues messed up. I used a Montana Gold Light Blue, and for the burnt orange stripe that you have on the Rapidstrike, and as well for the jam door, I used a Montana Gold Bermuda. So that's all the colors I used for it, and they are everywhere. The only thing that I left orange was the tip of the tip, for safety reasons, obviously, and for the piece that starts the magwell, so loading magazines would still be easy and clean and smooth, because paint will gunk that stuff up real fast. The clear coat that I used for this build is something called ProXL 2K Clear Coat. The criteria that I had for the clear coat were really important for this build. Number one, it had to protect really well with Montana paint. Montana goes on a bit thicker than, say, Duplicolor stuff, so I needed something that would protect this from chunking paint off, because I've used some stuff in the past that you could easily scratch Montana paint off with. But the most important part with this build was I needed a clear coat that kept the colors as true and as accurate as possible, because this entire build basically relies on the colors to be what they are, because I sourced them specifically for the inverted Rapidstrike colors. I have to give a big thanks to Tom of Foam Data Services for helping me source, find, and just talk me through all this clear coating stuff. Now, the only problem with this clear coat is because it was my first time using it, there are some spaces on the Rapidstrike that have more clear coat than others, because I got a little heavier on one side of the shell than the other. Along with the ProXL 2K Clear, I did use Duplicolor Clear Coat for the pieces that didn't need the super duper protection, and because I ran out of the ProXL 2K stuff. So the sight, the sling, the extended mag release, and I believe this piece right here have the Duplicolor clear coat on them. Not as shiny, but it does kind of have the same feel to it, so it does blend in a way. Oh yeah, and also the muzzle. With the paint all done, let's talk about all the stuff that is inside of the Invert Rapidstrike. Powering this build are 3 Make Test Battle Rhinos, so all the motors have been replaced with the MTB Rhinos. And for the main connections of this build, so coming from the XT60 LiPo connector at the front and the motors, is 16 gauge silicone wiring with 18 gauge silicone wiring for the connections between the switches, just to kind of save on space so I didn't have a bunch of wires all over the place and getting in the way of the trigger and the rev trigger. Speaking of the trigger and the rev trigger, I have a V156 1C25 15 amp switch for the rev trigger, a Cherry DC2 10 amp switch for the main trigger, and an Omron SS10GL 10 amp switch for the pusher switch, and they are sitting on top of a Blastersmiths UK 3D printed switch platform. And like I said earlier, the connector at the front for your LiPo is an XT60 connector, which is to be expected because it's what I usually use for all my builds. And I almost forgot I have a Gavin Fuzzy extended mag release right here at the bottom. Now, one thing I'm thinking about doing for my build videos in the future and now is I'm gonna have in the description where I get all my stuff from. So say you want to get the 15 amp switches that I use in the grip, I'll have a link to them or where I get them from. And while this may not be optimal for everyone, I think it would be very helpful for those who could use it. And you know, it could give you the product information that you need to find it in a place that's closer to you. So if you're interested in getting some of the stuff that I use for this build, information will be in the description below. Now, because the Invert Rapidstrike is supporting rhinos, this thing likes to run off of a 3S LiPo. And while I do have a 3S LiPo, I don't think it's the best suited one for this build, but it does shoot nicely. Now, while others will say that the rhinos don't shoot as fast as they would like, I really do like the rate of fire on the rhinos. And the FPS readings are what I would expect off of rhinos running a slightly underpowered LiPo at about 115 FPS. Overall, I am extremely happy with how this build turned out. It looks perfect inverted, and I'm really happy that I got it. I did mess up with the blues in the beginning, so I had to go back and repaint them. So a couple of the parts are much thicker than I would like them to be, but overall it turned out better than I could have thought. And the clear coat is super awesome stuff. So I'm gonna be looking into using more of it in the future, even though it's pretty darn expensive. Once again, thank you to Tom for helping me out with all my clear coat questions and messages. Really big help. If you just so happen to like this build as much as I do, which let's be honest is a lot, it will be available in my web store for sale, which does make me sad to see it go, but I do need the money to make more builds and for NVZ coming up in June. So there you have it. That is the Invert Rapidstrike, the Rapidstrike that looks like it has a stock paint job when you put an invert filter on it. So thank you to Leg for suggesting the idea. As much as I'm sad to see it go, I hope someone will put it to good use. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, you know the drill. Have a great day wherever you are.